We have about 3 questions from last week that we were trying to get pulled up, and we're excited about trying to answer. One of those had to deal with the rich man and Lazarus. Troy, can you remind me what that question was?
Well, that's all I wrote down. It's from Angela Brown from last week, and we appreciate the question. And she was referring to Luke 16, and I believe she was probably referring to how do we know about where we go when we die. I think that was the question. We're having, like I said, a little bit difficulty with my computer here. I can't get directly to the question that she had. Well, let's go to that passage, Luke chapter 16.
Right. Hey, by the way, Andrea, we don't have translation software, so I'm not sure. You said something in Spanish. Hola. What's that mean, Troy?
It means hello.
I actually knew that one. Great to see you on here, Andrea. Adam, glad to see y'all on here. Ray, do you remember the question from last week, I think?
I did. It went away from my head for just a minute, but it was about the rich man and Lazarus, and I believe she was wanting to know if those who have passed away still know about our state today, because the rich man had questions about his brothers who were still alive.
That's right. Now that you say that, I remember.
Oh, that's exactly it. I actually just found it as you said it, but appreciate that, Ray, reminding us. And that's a great thing that we think about in the case of the rich man and Lazarus. And it's always been one of my favorite accounts that I read of in the Bible. Do you have favorite accounts?
Oh, absolutely. I have multiple. I have many accounts that I love.
I think I say that almost about every passage, though.
I wonder if I do the same thing, because a lot of times I'll say, this is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, and it'll be a different verse than I said the week before and the different verse than the week before that.
All right, before we get there, just to recap, what you have is Jesus speaking regarding a rich man that dies and Lazarus that dies. Now, Lazarus on earth, he actually would beg for the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table.
Right.
And that's intriguing because of the feast at the time. It was common for them to leave the doors open, and people could gather around the outskirts of the table, and it was not uncommon for people to beg for those leftovers. And they die, but we understand that Lazarus goes to Abraham's bosom, where he is rewarded. And then the idea is that the rich man goes to a place of torment.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's a case in which the man, he desires that Lazarus to be able to dip his finger in some water and just touch the tip of his tongue for relief. I can't imagine.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I've been thirsty, I've been hot, but never to the point that just a finger being wetted, touching my tongue would have been anywhere close to satisfying.
There's a lesson in there.
Oh, you know it is. And then whenever it says no, he can't, the rich man's concern turns away from himself finally.
Yes.
And it goes to his brothers. And whenever he does so, his desire is, send Lazarus back.
He says, in fact, I'll go ahead and read it. Verse 27. Then he said, I beg you, therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to this place of torment. And Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them.
Okay. And the point in all this, if you say, why is Jesus teaching this in Luke 16, what would you say, Troy?
Well, he's responding to the Pharisees. The Pharisees have been giving him a hard time up to this point. When you back up in the scriptures, you'll see that he's giving all kinds of parables about a wealthy people and things like that in response to the way that the Pharisees have been treating him. And so he's trying to help them to see there's more. I'm kind of paraphrasing the basic idea. He's seeing that showing there's more to life than these earthly possessions that we have.
Exactly. And not looking down upon others and trying to have statuses when you go back to chapter 15. Because remember, the Pharisees had a lot of problems with Jesus because he would be with publicans and sinners.
Exactly. And so he's showing that there's value in these souls. So to finally get back to her question, we had to make sure, we always want to do that, by the way. We want to make sure we give you the background, the context, and predicate some of the things so that you don't misunderstand our answers. So according to the Son of God, all-knowing, who knows about heaven and can describe it like no other human being can, he's showing that this man who is dead who has passed on can remember his family.
Exactly. According to this, the answer would be yes. Now, with that being said, though, there's a lot of things that come up that I think are worthy of our consideration. One, is this an actual event or is it a parable? I'm kind of going to do a survey real quick. One word answer. Actual event or parable, Ray?
I think it's an actual event.
Jeff?
I would say actual event.
Troy?
Absolutely actual event.
I say actual event, and I'm going to go to that it actually uses real names is what distinguishes it to me, and there's nothing to indicate a parable. Now, if you're watching this and you say it's a parable, your preacher said it's a parable, there are those that believe that, and I'm not going to get into an argument of that one way or the other. But I believe it does describe the idea of the Hadean realm that gives us an understanding of the awaiting place. Now, a lot of people talk about you can't find happiness because if they can look back and understand that their family's still here and there's this cognizant understanding of whether somebody's saved or not saved, then you wouldn't be able to find true happiness in Abraham's bosom and things of that. Just remember, the Hadean realm is different. You've been doing Revelation studies, and you think about the Hadean realm. In particular, one passage, I'm wondering if you know where I'm going with that.
Well, I'm thinking of Revelation chapter 20, whenever he throws it into the lake of fire. Is that the verses?
I was thinking about the saints underneath the altar.
Oh, okay. That would be a good reference.
Crying out, how long, how long?
That's a great point because they obviously remember what happened to them.
Exactly. And so is there an idea of consciousness or awareness within the Hadean realm? I believe there is. Because now what we run into trouble is we're dealing with spiritual things versus physical things. And we try and equate everything to that which is tangible and that we're familiar with today.
Right.
But obviously there is a connection here to the idea that he was able to look back and be concerned.
This is a great question a lot of people have is, are we going to know each other when we get to heaven? And you go back and forth, that some people argue that you can't. How is that possible? I think you just made a great case for the fact that we can.
Well, I think there's a distinction there too, though. We got to pull is that this is still the Hadean realm before we even get to the idea of the final judgment.
That's right.
Because if we know one another in heaven, like the argument is, well, if I'm in heaven and let's say my wife's not there, I won't be happy. And that's hard to think about, the idea, but we know that we're not given in marriage. That is an earthly relationship. And we try and process our understanding of heaven by earthly relationships today.
That's right.
And that's not the way the scriptures portray it.
That's right.
All right. So, I hope, Angela, that helps.